those two people that we first met there, that they already had their group, and that's how we joined the group. And he's now 94, and she's 92, and they're still going strong.
Yeah.
And he's the one that has the train, all the little trains
Yeah.
in his
basement.
basement.
Yeah.
His whole basement.
He's one of those people that has it all mapped out and set up like a city and all that. Yeah.
He goes down there every day, plays with
Puts
his
his
trains.
engineer hat on.
It's a
So
lot of fun.
Going back, who owns, well, I don't know, you know the name, right, obviously, but when did that property get sold in Great Oaks to somebody else?
We sold it to, when we moved to Stephenville, he sold it to his sister Christine. And she wanted to live out there, but her husband was very ill, and he eventually died, but she went ahead and she rented it, and the man, they think he was smoking and it burned down, burned to the ground. Mother was just heart sick because we were there. She completely renovated it. She worked really hard. She didn't change any walls or anything, but she updated it.
Yeah.
She had, there was a long front porch all the way across. It was one of those dog trot houses. Here's one
and
part.
the center thing with the
here's one
stairway in
part,
the middle.
And there was a, what they called a dog trot, and that's where they put the animals at night, you know, if it was storming or raining or whatever, they put the animals in that center section. So then when they closed that in, that part was the parlor. The living room was over here, and the kitchen at the back, and the dining room back of that, and then the 2 bedrooms here. And the rooms.
But it was kind of squared off, right?
It
where
was
there
square.
was like that area also in the middle was where the stairway went up to the second floor. Because I remember really studying the house, you know, and looking at the architecture on it.
And they added that back section.
Right.
And
it was very, what would you call the style? It was very plantational almost, you know, sort of, yeah.
It was imposing. It was big, long.
Big square with the big porch all the way around.
Big porch,
yeah.
Not all the way around, just
well,
the
just
front.
that front part, yeah.
And she closed down this section with where the living room was.
Yeah.
So that we had, it was screened in. The rest of it was left. So she did that third, and then the rest of this was open. And at the end of that was where the swing was, the old-fashioned swing.
Right.
And then down, the one that hangs, you know, in 2-seater. And then over here was this one here, the swing that's out here.
Yeah.
It was in the yard on that side.
Yeah.
And then the barn was on the other side. And the chicken house. And the garden.
That swing is like 100 years old or something.
Oh, it's more.
And I heard that you're gonna have it at your home. Cool. Just have to replace the.
Yeah,
It's
everything.
a lot to do.
I was actually gonna shoot a video with her on the swing, and I went over there and it was like.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
It's not safe.
No, it's not
And I
safe.
barely pushed on it too. It was.
Not
I'll have
safe
to-
anymore.
I'll basically have to completely redo the metal pieces, which,
Oh,
you know,
do the
will be the
metal
structure,
pieces.
and then I'll do the, you
Will
know,
you?
I'll put new,
You think?
well, not replace, I'll just have to
Work on it.
clean and, to make it, you know, because right now it's pretty rusty in places.
Mhm.
So, I'll have to make sure that's all safe, but it'll have to be, if I want to do it right, I could just paint it and go on, but
It's been done that way.
yeah, I
several
know.
times.
I did it once. I basically painted the whole thing and redid it.
Really?
One of the times, yeah.
You put in the wood too?
No, it wasn't really I don't know if it was a wood replacement at that point. It was more of just, painting it, staining it, whatever it was that we did on that, but painting the white, all the way on the metal pieces, but yeah, I mean, right now, all the wood completely replaced,
Just think that was my great grandfather's,
Oh.
my grandfather's, my father's,
Wow.
mine.
And it's been around a couple, like Margaret and
There's
JP had it for a
Margaret
while.
had it.
Yeah,
That's true.
you guys have had it
Yeah.
back.
We've had it back, and then you'll get it
You guys will probably get it.
one day.
Oh, you want it? Really?
I was gonna say that actually goes into
That's
the
cool.
question that I wanted to ask you.
Okay.
My next turn.
Well, here you go.
Was
Okay,
your,
good.
was your turn over?
How cool.
Was it your turn?
No,
Or you next?
no,
Or were you
it's
just
it wasn't.
talking?
I like a natural, just
I like
conversation.
natural
So
flow.
yeah,
Alright, well, he kept coming back to me and I wasn't ready.
I know. Whenever
But
you're
you
ready,
said-
just
You said
jump
you're ready
in.
now, so.
I'm ready now. I was gonna ask about any particular memories you have with the swing, like growing up, Because I mean, if Dad's gonna take the swing, and then someday I can tell my kids about
Great
your memories
question.
with the
Very,
swing.
that's
So
very good.
I want to know about the swing.
I got hurt on it.
Oh,
Oh, good. Tell the story.
I did. I slipped, and I slipped on it, and that metal piece on the flat and where your feet are, that metal piece just sticks up straight up, and I fell on it in between my legs, and really hurt me,
Mm.
and I was afraid
wow.
to tell anybody.
Well, I
Yes,
guess
it was
you,
okay.
I guess you had kids.
Yes, I was okay, but I was worried.
It all worked out.
Silence was
That was the
definitely-
main thing that happened to me on that swing. And I was afraid of it then after a little while. I was very, very careful.
So did you end up having
And that
a
was
good memory?
there, when it was at the old home place.
What's a sweet memory with the swing?
Yeah, no.
It's a good memory.
Yeah.
Did you
But I loved it. I
finally
really loved
start
it.
getting back on the swing at some
Oh,
point?
sure. Yeah, I did, but I was more careful.
Okay.
Cause I like to swing it, I wanted to
That's
do
true, you
fast
have
things.
a
It
wrist
was like it was
flicker, a fast thing.
it was sort of a small thing.
Yeah,
it
it
wasn't
was.
like you could do a big time,
Yeah.
but we would like zing it.
Yeah.
And somebody we would get down on one end on our knees on the board facing
Mhm.
out towards one side or the other, and somebody would swing it, and we were like, like this, and it wouldn't go far, but we thought it was pretty
Yeah.
cool because we were small. So
Right. So do you
Well-
have some other memories?
Well,
of
every time we'd get together and,
your first kiss
No.
on it or something?
No. I don't even wanna talk about
Well,
that one.
I know my next question.
it sat right there in it
Come
sat
on
in their
first,
yard
my
right
next
out the back window. So they were close. It
Oh.
probably wasn't the first kiss.
Oh,
No.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
Okay, what were you gonna say?
But I loved having all of my grandchildren on it, and then the great children. I just loved the fact that I had pictures of them all on it.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I guess the greats not so much, because it's in such bad shape.
Yeah.
I know there's pictures
while,
of
yeah.
Taylor and I
Mm-hmm.
I guess it was when you first moved here, because I know it was
Yes,
right in that
yes,
spot.
I have that picture.
So I know there's pictures of Taylor and us
Oh, wow.
on it before it, I guess.
Yeah.
If we sat on it now, it'd probably collapse.
Yeah.
Especially Taylor.
Totally.
It's been years since anybody's been on it. Yeah, it still looks good out there, but you look closely, you can tell it's disintegrating.
Is there anything else you can think about, as far as did you have?
Well, we carried it with us
Some-
everywhere we went.
Okay.
That was in the backyard. When we went to Stephenville, the first little house that we had on Vanderbilt Street, we had a big weeping willow in the backyard, and we put it underneath it. And the weeping, the weeping willow just really lacy,
Yeah.
and it was just over it like that. You felt like
That
You
must
know,
have been
it was really-
incredible.
really nice. It was
What
a tiny
about that?
backyard, but that was really nice.
Was that area right there? Vanderbilt was I have to think about my streets. I used to know every single street everywhere in Stephenville, and even because I delivered furniture, you know, and I knew everything. But
That's right.
Vanderbilt was in the area where pretty much Charlton has taken over all that, right? Where
No,
was
it's away
Vanderbilt?
from that. Vanderbilt all the way down to Tarleton, yes. It
Yeah.
went straight into Tarleton.
Right.
And yes, yes. But where we lived, no, it's too far away.
Okay. So is that house
Could eventually.
still there?
Uh-huh,
Okay.
still there.
All right.
Just a little bungalow.
Yeah.
It had 2 bedrooms,
You have to,
dining room.
have to show me that sometime, because I
Mhm.
don't think maybe I've seen it when I was younger, but I don't think I have, you know.
We lived there for several years, and then when John was coming, they decided to build where it is now.
Yeah.
And there was nothing there. It was a field.
Yeah.
And they were the only ones to build first. And then other people came and built. And Daddy said always, he said, I should have bought all that property.
Yeah.
And then I would have made a killing, but he didn't. He was always very conservative.
Well, back then it was, they were out in the country.
He was.
Wasn't it?
Hmm.
Well, yeah. I mean,
There were no houses out there.
wasn't that far, but yeah, I guess it was considered, you know.
There were
there
some
wasn't
within a
lot
block,
of development.
within a block, small
yeah.
homes. But his was double lot. All 3 of those on that side were double lots. The
Yeah.
houses took
Yeah.
up 2 lots.
True, I didn't think about that.
Mhm.
There's only 3 houses on
And come to think of it,
that block.
Yeah, it was like
That's the
6 on
only-
the other side, and it was
Yeah.
always
True.
3 there. Yeah.
come to
I
think of
never
it,
even
every
thought of
other
it.
house that's out there are the small lots.
Yeah.
And those 3 had the double lots.
That's true.
Mhm.
We'll never forget their neighbors. They have an inside pool, an indoor pool.
Mhm.
Oh,
That's the
man,
one house
that's
out there
fun.
that
Mhm.
didn't look like the rest of them.
It's
Mhm.
always looked nice.
Yeah.
Right.
It's always been, and the lawn has always been, you know,
Yeah,
just
The
perfect.
lawn
And
was absolutely
The
perfect.
lady that lived there was just very particular. And it
I
always
didn't
looked
feel like I
nice.
could step on that lawn because
Yeah.
it was so
Yes, perfect.
perfect.
Mhm.
Anyway, so no, do you have another question?
Oh. Not at the moment. I wasn't thinking about anything else. I was just kind of listening.
Yeah, good stuff. You got one.
I have something. I was wondering, since I didn't get to know them, what is like something about both of your parents that you admire about them?
Oh my goodness.
Like a
that's lot.
trait about them that sticks out the most when you think about them.
Excellent.
Daddy was a hard act to follow. He was just a genius. He really was. He loved history. Every time we'd take a trip, he was very careful to plan it out ahead. We couldn't just jump up and go somewhere. We had to plan it ahead, and we took cheese and crackers and fruit. We'd stop and get fruit. We didn't stop and eat, you know, like fast foods or anything like that on trips. And then we would do picnics, and he always wanted us to know about the world, because this was after he came back from the war, and he taught Sunday school, and everybody just flooded into his class because he had been to the Holy Land. He already knew about the Bible. He knew the Bible before he even went there, so he soaked it up. He was 25 when he went into the service, and no, that's not right. He was 25 when they married, and 27 when I was born, and then he was in his late 30s, I guess, when he was in the service.
Right.
Anyway, he
Late
went
30s?
from 40s maybe. I
Was
can't get that now. Cause,
How long
no.
was he in the service?
well, let's see. I was born in 1934, and
he didn't sign up until
the
started,
war
right?
was late 30s, early 40s. So he went in when he was still a very young man, and within a very short time, less than a year, he went all the way up to colonel. And that doesn't happen.
No.
Usually.
No.
Of course, in the war, it does quicker. But they could see that he was just so organized, and he just was good with people. He enjoyed life, and he liked to laugh, and he told corny jokes, but
Dad jokes.
but he was he grew up on a farm, so he knew how to grow things, and he loved to grow things, especially food. And he planted all the trees, every bush, every tree. Mother planted flowers, but when they built their house up there, he planted all those trees because there were no trees, and now it's just covered with trees.
And the pine trees.
And the pine trees, he brought the pine
native.
trees.
Yeah, from East
In
Texas.
Stephenville, you never saw a pine tree. But he had come from East Texas, and he was determined to have some pine trees, so he brought pine trees, and he knew what the soil needed. It was nitrogen, so he made sure that he planted lots of pine trees and fruit trees, fig tree, peach trees, several apple trees, a huge garden, a persimmon tree. He just, that was why he wanted a big lot, so he could have a big garden and all of these things that he could grow. And then when I came back home after his dad died, and I bought a house around the corner on the street around the corner from them, and by the side of my house there was a double lot, and he knew the guy that owned it, and so he made arrangements. I don't know what it was, but he made arrangements so that he could put a big garden.
Well, the arrangement was I had to mow the other lot.
Oh, was that
Really?
it?
Yeah.
See, I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I was the one that
That
was
was
mowing that big lot that went all the
really?
way back to the alley and
Oh, yeah?
around the
Oh, yeah.
garden. That was part of it.
Oh, that was part of it.
Wow.
Well, he
I mean,
approached me
he
and
wasn't
he said,
planning on selling it or anything, or at
No.
least not then. And
But
so
he
he said,
wanted
okay,
it
you can
mowed.
have this whole part, but you have to take care of the whole thing. So that was part of it. I don't know if there was something else, but I know I was mowing it, so I remember that.
I remember that. So was the garden basically on one lot, not two?
Yeah, it was just on there was
kind of
two
in the
lots,
middle.
and there was our house. That
Right.
was on the far lot, and the middle lot was nothing. It was
Oh,
just
the middle lot was nothing.
I thought it was kind of in the middle of the two.
no. It was on
No?
the absolute
End of the
corner.
right, yeah, right side. Mhm.
Well, he approached me and said, I want to put a garden here for you, and all you have to do is just,
Come out and pick it up.
you have to pay the water bill,
Oh, yeah, that's true.
and we could go harvest. And
Oh
he
man.
remembers running
That's my
in and
first
out of
memories.
the cornfield.
Literally first memories.
Yeah, it wasn't just a small garden. It was like a whole
Huge.
lot garden. I mean, it was huge. You know?
It was cornfield. I mean, it was a cornfield, and I'm like, what, that tall or
Yeah,
something like
yeah,
that?
mhm.
And so these so it was just like, skyscrapers for me. And then also Papa would show up, and I still have, and I don't have a good memory at all, but I still have this one memory where he would, often we would pull up carrots and we'd wash them off with a hose
Mhm.
and put them in our mouth and eat them right from the soil. And
Mhm.
I flipped out. I thought that was the coolest thing. So yeah, that's my very first memory, was eating a carrot with Papa.
But I know for a fact that since I was raised with really good vegetables and fruits, those are my favorite things to eat. And they've made me healthy all my life. And it was surprising to me, I'm just gonna throw this in,
Bonus
When-
time.
when I broke my hip, and I was I guess 80 years old then when I broke my
Yeah.
hip,
Mhm.
and Dr. Corey Mark, Dr. Mark said, you might like to know that you don't have any arthritis in your hips. which means I don't have any arthritis.
Yeah.
Now that's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
I thought it was.
No, absolutely.
But I put it out to the fact that we had fresh fruits, fresh vegetables, right from the garden, no preservatives, no stuff on them, growing them. Now it's hard to find the real good stuff anymore. Just have to
Roundup.
keep looking. But that's daddy. But mother,
Before you go on to mom,
Yeah.
Your mom, just to her question, you asked, like, what are some traits or something you admire? Like, how would you sum him up? Like, as far as admiring what his qualities were, character. Is that what your question is?
Yeah, like what adjectives would you use to
Adjectives.
describe?
Great.
terrific work ethic. He worked till the end of his life, till he couldn't anymore. He was in his 80s when he was climbing the pear tree, and I was coming over there, and I was like, and he had stuffed his pockets everywhere with pears, and he was reaching for the last one, and he was on a
Oh my
limb,
goodness.
and I just went
So
bananas,
do you
you know.
just want to meet Jesus today? Is that?
He's a lot like
But-
Pawpaw.
but I
right?
will tell
Pawpaw
you-
Brown.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, just,
That's what I was thinking before you said that.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
And who is that?
That's her
My
that's her
Great grandfather.
great grandfather.
Great.
Yeah, he was like out
He lived
there
to-
on his riding mower till he was like 85 years old or
That's what he
something.
did. I mean, that's
Yeah.
where he was
Mhm.
comfortable. You know,
Yeah.
so
He lived to
we're
be
gonna take it
100
away
and-
from him.
He was almost 101.
My
way.
goodness, so you've got long-lived people on both
And Granny
sides.
was, how old was she?
96,
I thought she was old.
94,
Wow,
This is
Oh,
like
94, 95 years
your
old.
mother's
and your grandmother's
Yeah,
still
mother's
living.
My
parents.
mom's grandparents.
grandparents.
And
Mother's grandparents.
Your grandmother's still living.
Mhm. Yeah.
Is she living in their house, in the grandparents' house?
No, she's got her
Wait,
own.
who?
She
She's
does.
got her own.
Oh, my
house.
na- oh,
yeah,
Nan?
yeah.
Yeah, no, she lives in home.
But anyway, just to add in, I mean, I always saw him as somewhat of a teacher,
Very much so.
and you would look at him for his discipline. And I don't mean his discipline necessarily in saying things to people, that he would say things to people or discipline them or anything. I'm just talking about he was a very disciplined person. So if you wanted to be like that, he was a good person to look at. So he had an aura about him that was I mean, he could be kind of, he could be kind of like stern about things at times, but he was, I'm sure that John and David probably had a different, growing up under him was probably a lot
It was
different
tough,
than being
it was tough,
being
because
a grandchild.
we could never
Yeah,
do things as well as he wanted
right.
us to
I mean,
do.
he was very, very, but as far as the way he was for Margaret Gwen and I, and and for Zane, and it was, I mean, we learned a lot, from him, just being around him, and from him and Mama. I mean, it was just, it was one of those things where you just don't forget that. So, some of it you can't even describe in a word. It's just that relationship.
That's actually exactly what I was going to say. Relationship, because by the time, I'm obviously 9 years younger, and so by the time I was coming along, and I would spend some time with him, and we would go to the back, and he would teach me how to golf. And we'd have these little wiffle balls, and a wiffle ball, if you don't know, has holes in it, and it's just plastic. Okay.
Yeah.
So we practiced with those, and I could whack it as hard as I wanted to, and it wouldn't, go anywhere. So we spent, I had countless memories with him out there doing that. Pretty much every day that I was with him, we would go practice, and I, would spend a lot of time there with them. And all I remember is just him taking time with me to just, and his smile, and oh, that made me emotional. It was just a great beginning to my life. So
I'm glad that all of you had that opportunity to be with him, although it was, I was busy trying to get my teacher's certificate and teach, after your dad's death. And
the other thing is he loved to tell stories.
yes,
We would sit in front of the big map, kind of like the one that's in the office there, and this big old map. It was bigger than that one though. It was probably maybe 3 times as big or 4 times as big. It was huge, or at least I remember it being huge.
it was.
As a little kid,
Yeah.
and he would just talk about. He would point to all these different places, and he would talk about. I'll never forget him getting so excited, talking about chasing the desert fox. The desert fox was Rommel, who was not the Nazis. Hitler's right-hand man was
He was.
the guy who was really
He was the general.
orchestrating all the destruction, basically. And
Yeah, I mean, it's so interesting when you think about, he served under Patton. You've heard of Patton, right?
Sounds
He was General Patton. He was like the leader.
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, he was at that time, and he was serving under him, and he was out there, and he was doing all this stuff, and defending and winning the war. I mean, it's an incredible thing, the experiences that he had.
yeah.
And I have
It's
another thing
It's
about him was he was a
fascinating.
journaler. He journaled every day of his life, I think. He
Gosh,
started it
yeah.
when he was young, and
wow.
and upstairs I've got these little books. They're about this long, and he put every day he would put in there tiny little, about this big. He would say
you
the
serious?
day and
Every
whether
day.
and the
I've never
weather
seen that.
and a significant thing that happened that day.
Just that's it.
Every day of the world.
Of the world.
And I mean, I had
Of his world.
all these little things, and who really wants them? I haven't
That
thrown
is
them away.
someone who does not take a single day for granted.
No.
Really,
And,
if you think about
and
it.
if you want to know about him even more, he wrote every day, or nearly every day, during the war, as things happened. So if you're into World War II, he was right in the thick of things, like you said, and he was the colonel who was in supply. He had to go ahead of where the
Oh, yes.
actual
This
fighting
is good
was.
to know
I mean,
this.
people were coming. He had to go ahead of that and build airfields, put up barracks, get everything organized for the men to come as they were coming. And so then they would
Operations.
jump to the next place, and he had to do the same thing again as they were pushing Rommel across Africa.
Yeah, because you don't just come into a place and say, "Here we are."
Yeah.
You gotta
You have
plan
to be-
for it.
It
You
is.
have to plan for it, and so
Yeah.
he was in charge. He was the colonel
Isn't that
of
incredible?
that
What a job.
operation, and his whole squadron, 315th Air Squadron, was his
350.
315th. And before they left California to go there, that's a fascinating story, because he told his men, he said, I want you to pack your tools with you so that when we get there, you're ready to go. No one else did. None of the other commanders thought about that.
Oh.
And when they got there, they were ready to go. But the other people had to wait
They were waiting for
their
cargo
tools.
and all that
And
to show up.
that kind of thing. He was so organized,
That's
so
something.
thoughtful, ahead
I
of
wish
things.
he would have passed that down to you and then to me. You
Well, I
got it
think- I
better
think
than
we
I
have-
do.
Yeah, I think we all got a piece of that, you know, because there's some things I'm very methodical about that I
Me
think,
too.
oh, you know, Papa would love this.
Mhm.
But there's other things, you know, obviously that I probably wasn't, you know, didn't get or wasn't as disciplined about. But now that's Papa. Now Mama, she's like, you know, to me, she's like.
She
She
was
was-
detailed perfectionist type.
Yes, she was too.
Yeah, she was too. I mean, she
She
was,
was too.
yeah, they were both kind of on that.
She
Fine.
grew up, she was one of 8, he was one of 13. Her first 2 brothers passed away. He had 2 pass away also in his family. But she was raised in East Texas as well. Daddy was in Longview, or P-Town, which was close to Longview, and Carthage, which was closer to the border. Mama was closer to the Louisiana
And
border.
that's what, 30 minutes away? or
And
something
she
like that?
was valedictorian of her high school class. That right there tells you a lot. And then he was salutatorian of his high school class. The way they got together was, he was older, he was like 2 years older than she was. So he was already working when just after she went to college 1 year, he went to college 4 years. So he was already working for the state in the Department of Agriculture.
You know, it's funny, just not to
Mhm.
interrupt, but it's funny that we've covered everything on him, and then one of his claim to fame is what he did
that's
once he got
right.
out of the
Mhm.
service. So you might want to cover that in a
Yeah.
second, because
Do you know
Yeah.
this? What his claim?
No.
What do you call it? Name?
You know the big turkeys that people always have at Thanksgiving,
Yeah.
the butter balls? He was in on that,
developing.
developing the butterball turkey when he was in the Department of Agriculture.
In other words, you basically you
Mhm.
put the right mixture of things together, you know,
Mhm.
like the right birds together, and you
To make
develop
more,
a new
to make more meat. for
more
the-
meat. You develop a new breed or a new type of,
Mhm.
you
So
know.
he
He was involved in
a
that.
turkey breeder.
Mhm.
basically. That's interesting.
And then, he
The
was,
was it the broad
Does it make you want to
breasted?
eat a butterball?
Nope.
Butterball
The
turkey
broad
now?
breast-
Broad
Still
breasted,
no.
yeah,
Turkey.
broad breasted turkey.
and
Yes,
then
he
it
developed that.
became the butterball, they called
Yeah,
it the butterball.
Yeah.
Heretofore, the turkeys were not very full, you know, in their chests. So they took the better of several turkeys and put them together, you know, breeded them, and they got a better, you know, outcome.
Did you hear that? Our great grandfather created the butterball turkey.
Butterball.
Yeah, you know how people at Thanksgiving have the butterball turkey? It's like the fat turkey.
Fat chested ones.
You never heard of butterball?
No.
Well, I don't eat meat. I don't know what that is. So.
Anyway. Anyway.
Households across America know about
Well,
it.
now you're going to notice it when you work at Kroger with me. You're going to see it.
Butterball
And your
turkey.
grandfather,
I'm sure I've heard of it, but I don't eat turkey.
No.
You know,
Yeah.
so
Yeah, you wouldn't be interested.
great grandfather.
Well, I don't either, but I still know.
Yeah,
Well,
you know things without putting them in your mouth.
After mother
It's good to know.
finished high school, she went to college 1 year, and then she came back to Carthage and she became a teacher. Because in those days, you could do that. You could become a teacher without a certificate, without a degree.
Wait, what kind of teacher? Like how,
She taught, I think it was 5 grades, from 3rd through 6th.
Oh yeah, you.
No, that's 3 grades,
All subjects.
all subjects.
But I mean, like elementary, like
Elementary,
older kids.
elementary.
Oh yeah, you definitely need.
And she
to
even
figure
had
that
her
out.
youngest brother in class. And he was very smart, but she was really hard on him because she knew all the kids would think that he would get by with an A because, you know, and she was very much harder on him because she knew that he could take it. And so he had to do A+ work to get an A. Anyway, she was teaching, I think in her 2nd year, and he came to town on the train showing baby chicks. He had a bunch of baby chicks,
Good story.
and the classes would come and look at the baby chicks. and he would talk to them about baby chicks and all that, and they would hold them, you know, this, just a tour, you know.
I remember this story.
And so he saw Mother, and that was the end of it. I mean, he fell in love with her on the spot, and
I love it.
they corresponded. I don't know how they corresponded. I guess by letter, because most people didn't use the telephone much then. Anyway, that was in May.
Wonder what his pickup line was.
Did you know I developed the broad breast executive?
No, that was later.
You're a
They were showing chicks.
I was showing baby chicks.
I was gonna say,
Oh,
it's
you're
gotta
like, these aren't the only cute chicks on
I
the
was gonna
street.
say,
Yeah.
it's gotta be
But,
something to do with chicks.
Anyway, this
You're
was
a cute
May.
chick,
This was
then,
toward
isn't
the end of the year, and maybe they saw each other through the summer. I don't know, but probably not much. He was in San Antonio. She was in Carthage, and they got married in December. So it was a May-December courtship.
Well, they probably connected a lot over where they're from, Longview and
Well, that's true.
Carthage.
That's
being
true. That's
next
true. He
door
would come
to
home.
each other.
Yeah.
And then he would go see her. That's probably what happened. Anyway, they got married in 1932, and they built a house there in College Station, which is right next to Bryan, which is where Aggie Land is. He was actually now teaching at
Texas A&M.
Texas A&M, where he graduated. And so they
Oh, he
built.
did teach there too.
Mhm.
And what did he teach?
Horticulture,
What's that?
Yeah.
growing
Plant.
things,
Growing
Oh.
plants.
all
and
about
stuff.
growing.
Mhm.
Anyway, he was also working on the broad-breasted turkey with the Department of Agriculture. And so he was, every time he would come to work, people would ask, you know, has the baby been born yet? And finally, and I was late, and every day he'd go like this, every day, no. Finally, when I was born, 2 or so weeks later, past the due date, I was given a lifetime membership in the Baby Chick Association.
There you go.
So my name is in the roll of the
What does
Baby
that
Chick
mean?
Association.
What do you get for that?
Well, I
You
got
should
to
get
go-
like a butterball turkey for life.
I got to go with him to the convention in Austin one year, just me, just the two of us. And I thought it was pretty special. I was 14. And that was really, really fun.
Mhm.
That was after Daddy was at Tarleton as the vice president of Tarleton. And I was so impressed with him that day because there was a man across the restaurant from us. We had been to that convention, and I think it was morning and afternoon, and we went to lunch, and he saw somebody across the hall, across the restaurant that he knew, went over there to speak to him by name, and the guy was so surprised because he had been a student at Tarleton like a couple of years before that. And he was so surprised that Daddy would even remember him, much less call him by name. And I was so impressed with that I decided that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to be able to remember people's names.
Oh, wow.
So when Neil and I went to, I think it was in that area in Dallas that's so ritzy.
Highland Park.
No, on the edge, in Irving, I think it is. Anyway, we went, he got the award for the best, the chairman's award.
Yeah.
For pennies.
Right.
And so we got to go free for a weekend at this ritzy place. And there were just people there that had won the award, you know, all over the country. And And so we had the round tables like this. There were like 6 couples on a big table. And so they invited us to visit with everyone. And I decided that was what I wanted to do, was try to be able to call all these people's names. And because I had been doing that since I saw what my dad did. And so we visited all these people, and then they said, now that you've had time to get to know one another, we want to know if there's anybody here that can get up and talk and tell all the people at your table. And I did it.
Tell everybody's name.
Everybody's name.
Okay. And you did it.
And I told where they were from and certain other tidbits of information, how many kids they had or whatever.
No way.
But I did not only their names but other things.
Oh my
And
goodness.
I was the hit, and Neil was so proud of me. Because that's one thing he never could do. He could not remember things. And
He's like, you're gonna give me a raise.
and he
give me a
said,
raise.
you made me shine, you know. And ironically, the chairman's name was,
Shirley.
what was his name?
At the time, who was that?
Well, it doesn't matter because her name, her sister's name was Shirley Hatch.
Who's her?
His wife.
Oh, his wife.
His wife's sister's
You're
name
kidding
was
me.
Shirley Hatch.
No way.
So when they met me, and she said, well, I'll not forget your name, you know.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it was really fun. Well, I didn't think it was anything big because I was just practicing. I had been practicing, trying to do that. So it was not, I wasn't doing it to show off. But after, they kind of wanted to find out if there was anybody that could do that. And some people tried, but most of them didn't even
Well,
attempt
before you,
it.
and then you went.
Mhm. It was fun.
So let's back up. Let's talk a little bit more about Mama.
Okay,
Like,
yes.
how would you describe to answer
Yeah, I
your
was gonna
question?
say.
She was the
Adjectives.
quintessential Southern lady. She was not raised to be necessarily a lady, knowing all the things that, you know, a trained lady would know, like how to eat and how to sit and how to walk and all that. She learned it on her own because she wanted to be someone that Daddy could be proud of, and that she could help him with his job, because he was vice president of Tarleton. He was very happy because he had gone to Tarleton and then he came back as a staff member. And he aspired to become the president, but he was not a doctor. He didn't get a doctorate. He started on it, but he just finally gave it up. He was getting too old, and then he knew they wouldn't consider him, so he just gave it up. But anyway, back to Mother. She learned all about how to be a hostess. She knew all about the settings. That's the reason why I did that for you guys. You know, I told you how you set a table. You know, if you've got a lot of courses, you have the dinner fork, and then you have the salad fork, and then you have maybe even a little tiny fork that's with your appetizer. So you could have as many as 3 forks, and you could have as many as 2 knives. You could have a regular knife for butter, or you could even have 3 knives. You could have a regular dinner knife, a butter knife, and a steak knife. And you start from the outside in. This is the first course, this is the second course, this is the third course. So that's the way you know what's coming. And 2, there's something up here, and that indicates this piece here indicates what kind of dessert you're gonna have.
Oh,
If it's a fork, it's gonna be a cake.
a cake, okay.
If it's a spoon, it's
I
gonna be a
didn't know that.
flan, or it's gonna be a pudding,
Hmm.
or it's gonna be ice cream, something soft. So you know already
Oh.
by looking at the place settings.
Yeah.
And then you have your napkin has to be folded a certain way so that when you pick it up, it comes out like this from this corner. The way it's folded, it comes out and then it goes right into your
Hmm.
lap. So she learned all this. Not only that, but she was very artistic and she could make beautiful arrangements. She took lessons about how to do the lessons about arranging flowers. She had a natural bent anyway, and then she became an artist, you know, with her and she did oil paintings.
She did that painting right
She
there,
did
that's
this
my
one.
favorite.
She did that one over there, that one there. I mean, all over the place. I've got them. All of my children have children. I have paintings of hers, and she didn't start until she was in her 70s.
She didn't start painting until she was in her 70s?
Mhm.
Really?
And she
Right.
painted a lot of paintings.
She's so good at it. It looks like she painted all her life.
I know.
Well,
Well,
you
she
didn't
was
really-
very artistic anyway.
You didn't really start until you were in your 80s.
I know.
That's
And
something.
and you painted
Well,
that bird. I
Yeah.
love that bird.
Well, she's always, I mean,
This one right here, it's behind the rocking chair.
Yeah.
But yes, that
Over there.
bird.
Mhm.
That's the one you were working on when I went to art class with you. The bird.
Mhm.
Has anybody asked for that bird yet?
I think so. I think I've got somebody on the back.
I was gonna say I went to art class with you for that.
Let me check.
When you did that bird.
Nobody's asked for it.
You know what though? If they have, that means I need to go to art class with you again, and whatever you're working on at the time.
Mhm. I'm doing watercolor right now,
I love watercolor.
and I just love it.
I love.
I didn't know that I would like it so much.
That's what I did.
I
when
can
did
do
my
something a
tree.
lot faster with watercolor.
Well, I don't see any name on it, so
Oh, really?
you'll have to check your list,
Interesting.
see if you wrote it.
Oh, you know what it was? It was that other one that was that hollyhocks.
It's yours. You got it.
The bird's mine.
she might want to make that decision.
Well, she has.
I just made it.
So you can go put your name on it.
That's one thing that I love about you. You're quick to like, hey, I'd love for you to have it.
Yeah, sure. But she was an artist. She did all the flowers for the church. She made all of the costumes for the nativity, the live nativity. And they're still using them, I think, because
Oh,
you can only
gosh.
use it once a year. And they're still using it, a lot of that stuff.
That's cool.
I remember being in that.
Uh-huh.
I do. I
And
remember
standing in
that.
one place for an hour was really hard.
So hard.
Yeah.
It's
And
like you
when it
wanted to
was
faint,
cold.
and you just like, I gotta hold on, let me look.
The only thing that really made me like endure it was I knew I was going to get some kind of a cookie or a snack or something like I was going to get some hot chocolate out of the deal.
I should have thought about that.
Is that all it
Maybe that would have
takes?
helped.
Oh yeah.
Stand here for an hour and I'll give you a cookie.
Yeah.
I think,
It was
Well,
cool,
probably 2 or
but
3.
it was a little harder than you would think.
I think Margaret was married one year. I was always an angel. But Grampy said that's the only time you ever were.
And I was, you know, of course, I was a shepherd or a wise man. The only time you're an angel.
and that was the only time you
I
were
was
a wise
always
man?
an angel, always.
I was a shepherd or a wise man.
Oh, shepherd.
And John was in it, David.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, it was great. She was very artistic. She sang like a bird. She had a beautiful voice, and she was in the choir always, and I was too. And Margaret and Gwen also were singers, and they sang at her funeral. Sang.
You know, the thing that, again, I'll add in, you know, just like Papa and Mama was even more, Papa was sort of that rock, that stoic person, you know. And he taught me about, you know, gardening and about his yard and what he did in his yard and, you know, just some of those things. But with Mama, it was, you know, it was the whole thing about like what you said is that she kind of had that influence of family and things that you would do in your home and I don't know, again, it was, it's almost hard to put your finger on every single thing that they meant.
She had a very soft side.
Yeah, very
And
soft.
She loved to do things for people. She was always making something for someone, taking it to them. And she found out this person didn't like squash, and she had this squash bread recipe. And she made the squash bread and took it to them, and they just raved about it. And then she loved it. She thought it was so funny. She'd tell them then it was squash. It was made from squash. Of course, they said, "Oh no, it
I
wasn't."
remember having some of
She
that,
loved
too.
doing that, and it was wonderful. And I've never tried to make it. I really should try to make it. And she became a good cook. When she was growing up, all of the girls had certain jobs, and only those jobs. The two first girls were the cooks. Then she had to dust, and then she gave me that job, dust. And then now I've given it to Noah. She didn't like the dust. I
At
didn't
least
like
you're
the
getting
dust.
paid to do it.
No, I didn't get paid. Anyway, yeah, she didn't know how to cook. She couldn't do any of it. But she was still living at home when she was teaching. So she had to learn all of it, and she made a real study of it. She learned to be an excellent cook, and she
I
was
never
an
would've
excellent
known that.
hostess.
She
Excellent
was so
hostess.
good.
And then she taught all of you some. Taught you some
Yeah.
something. Sewing.
she-
She
you
taught
know,
you how to sew.
And they were both teachers,
Yeah,
they
they
were
were.
really
They were
both
teachers.
teachers at heart. And,
They were.
and
Well, they were
so-
both teachers. That's what they started out doing.
And I can tell you the one thing, to both of you is I think that the thing that I think, and Margaret and Gwen would probably agree with this, is it wasn't the individual things, it was just the bigger picture of, I can't imagine that, and there were a lot of things that happened to you, in your life that we were all affected by, and that, it was like a setback for you, and, we had to move somewhere else and this kind of thing, but I can't imagine not going back to Stephenville and being with them and growing up in those years with them, because their influence was so big on us. So, it's
I'm
just,
so glad you had that.
Yeah.
I didn't like the circumstances, but
I mean, they were like, you could look at it as a bad thing, and obviously there were some really negative things about that, leaving from San Antonio because of what happened, there and all that, and then going back and then we were now rooted in Stephenville for good, but that was really, in a way, that was a good thing. I don't even imagine how it would have been growing up in San Antonio, I would hate, I'm not thinking about the fact of what happened that made us move from there, but the positive of that was really a big
That's good.
thing.
Yeah, I see where you're going with that. That's good.
very good.
Yeah. And I would say for Mama and for me, that I would agree with you as far as when I think back on her, she was just the most selfless person. I can't remember a time thinking of her being a selfish person. She just was always
She was
really,
always up before everybody else, and she always had a good breakfast, and she,
and what was it, cherry turnovers? Was it
oh yeah,
the turnovers? Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Oh, that sounds good.
she
I
was,
just
she was a
love that.
great cook.
But I thought didn't you tell me that, I thought that she made them from scratch.
Oh,
but
she did.
She did make them.
Oh, of course.
Well, that's what I thought, but
She
then
learned
again,
to
I
do
thought
all
that
of
you had
that.
told me that she just took them out of a frozen box, they were frozen.
Well, sometimes she might, but most of the time she'd make things.
Well, that's what I thought.
Well, they were more homemade
Uh-huh.
coming from her than
Yeah.
anything.
Yeah.
That's what I thought. And also they had a pantry, like you opened up this it was like a closet.
Yeah, it was a big
And
closet.
You go in and there's just these shelves all around, and you could walk into this place and pickled everything,
Mhm,
right?
mhm.
Just all kinds
All
of pickled
canned
stuff,
stuff.
canned.
Because Daddy had this huge garden, and she told me one time, she said, Shirley, if you don't want to do something, don't do it the first time. And she said it after she had done all this canning that
Oh,
day.
no.
Because he had so much of it, and he gave a lot of it away, but there's still so much, and Daddy wanted it put up, and
Yeah.
put in that pantry. And so she did a lot of canning.
So
And
once
one
she
day,
started, it was like
one
she
time,
regretted it.
we did applesauce, and we put it up together. She was going to teach me how to do it, and she had this I forget what they call it. You put everything in there, and then it's steamed. It always scared me because I was afraid it was going to just burst, because it was going
Oh.
like this, and I just scared me. Anyway, we did this whole
What, a
day. We
pressure
spent the
cooker?
whole pressure cooker.
Okay.
And then we did this whole day, and it all went bad. It just didn't work because the tops were not down real good. Every bit of it
Oh,
was
when you
bad.
canned it,
When
you
we
put it
canned it.
away,
Yeah,
and then when you opened it, it was
yeah,
no,
it was
none of
it was no good.
Oh.
So I thought, man, I'm never going to do this again.
Well-
And she told me then, she said, well, if you don't want to do something for the rest of your life, don't do it the first time.
That's good advice.
That's good advice. Yeah. I actually learned that a long time ago in work, that I learned that from a pastor. He's like, if you think that you want something done,
Mhm.
pray that somebody else will come along and do it. Because if you do it, you do it.
You will do
It's
it.
yours. And
That's
then you
right.
could have a dozen different things going on, but you're the one doing it.
Well,
because
I
you-
used to tell, I told Neil several times, I said, I know why you're not going to learn how to do that right. Because you don't want to learn how to do it right. Because you know you're going to be doing it. That's true.
So in summary, Mama, how would you describe her, like Kate was asking?
Kind, generous, selfless, artistic, in so many ways. When she was involved in some of these clubs, she would always do the scrapbook, and it was affiliated. In other words, the scrapbook goes somewhere else to be judged, and she always had the best one, always.
And like what clubs?
Campus club, the women, the wives, and the teachers,
Campus.
campus club.
Military.
From Tarleton. From
Oh,
Tarleton.
Tarleton.
Tarleton Campus
Oh, I
Club.
see.
And she was in the
Daughters.
Priscilla Club,
Daughters of the
Daughters of the
American
American Revolution. And she always did their scrapbooks. That was because she was good at it. And I
See, I
liked.
love this
I
because I
liked-
didn't know any of this.
See, I did scrapbooks when we did on our
Yeah,
trips,
yeah.
and
they're
I'm
good.
good at it.
You're good at it, yeah.
And I like to arrange flowers. I've got a lot of her artistic talent. So it's wonderful. I sing,
Yeah.
So
And you're selfless and you're kind.
I'm pretty sure that I get a lot of things, obviously from you, but now that I know it comes from her to you, to me, because I'm very, Dad knows, he just got up and left, but I'm just so, you've seen my room, I like things to be
Very
matchy-matchy, and I like to make my bed just so, and I like things very,
I like it organized.
you know what I mean? Yeah, like every morning when I
pretty.
get up, I make my bed,
I do too.
and have to just stretch the blanket so there's no creases.
Me too.
It's got to be just so.
Me too, and I don't like wrinkles in my
I love it.
sheets. I don't know how people do that. They just,
Mm, 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 mm,
they don't
mm.
even make it a bed, and then their sheets are so wrinkled up.
Like I can't imagine not, because you know when I walk in, I mean in my room at least, you know when you walk into my room, my bed's like the
I
centerpiece
know
of the
it is,
room
it is.
with my art above it. It's like there, so it's like if I don't make the bed, it's like
And when you open the door, you see the bed.
my room's. I feel like my room's
Same thing with this
dirty
one, you know.
if I don't make my
I'm
bed.
the same way. And really, you know, when you're organized, your head is organized.
I feel much better.
When you
Dad
you-
knows that
when you're
about
not
me.
organized, you feel a little fuzzy, you know. It's not.
Yeah,
Not
Dad
as
knows that
clear.
about me.
What?
My room has to be just. I like my room matchy, just so I make my bed in the morning. That's the way I like my stuff.
You've always been like that,
Yeah.
and that's good.
So I feel like I'm like
Okay.
you and her. So even if I didn't know her, I feel like I keep a lot of stuff. Obviously from her because you get it from her, and then I feel like I got that too.
Yeah.
And her mother was this real sweet person, and she was the best looking of her sisters.
Oh,
My grandmother, your great.
What was her name?
Oh, your
my
great
great great grandmother.
great
What was her name?
Pearl.
It doesn't matter. She was the prettiest.
But her mother was
Pearl.
so sick when she was going to be born. And in fact, they didn't even think she would live through the pregnancy. And when she was born, when mother was born, her sister, who was only 2 or 3 years older, had to take care of her.
What, your grandmother?
My grandmother, my mother's mother.
Your mother? Her name was Pearl,
Pearl.
and your mother's name was.
Opal.
Pearl.
And her name was Opal Pearl, which she hated. And I don't blame her. 2 P's together like that, it's not good.
Oh, Pearl.
A couple of stones.
It's like if I was sapphire amethyst or something.
Yeah, that's right, exactly. Yeah, she hated her name. She was kidded a lot in school. But Daddy came along and called her his old pal.
Oh, that's cute.
Old pal. And she said, that was okay.
Better than Opal Pearl. I'll take it.
Yeah, she dropped that pearl.
Well, this has been good, Mom. Thank
Yes,
you.
it's been good, and I know they wanted to go. It's been long enough. But it was good to remember.
And
Very good.
Yeah.
I appreciate all your questions and your comments and your additions. And
we thank you.
Well.
It's been special.
yeah,
This
it has
is going to
been.
be a treasure for generations to come.
When you're ready, I have more questions.
We'll do a part 2.
I wasn't done, but okay.
or part 3 or part 4. We'll keep going. What would be your next question? Just curious.
That's a surprise. I can't
Oh, it's a surprise.
I have to keep you waiting.
Oh,
That's your
Conversation
seat.
started right now.
I know. If I let you know, then she'll be thinking of answers. And...
Well, yeah. Well, you can help
No, it has
be
to be-
ready.
Spontaneous.
Oh,
Spontaneous.
spontaneous.
If it's not
she-
spontaneous, it may not be genuine.
I'll tell you the next time what I'd like to
We're
do.
talking about Weezy.
That's true. But it's more fun to spring things on people.
Well, see, I tried that with the other video and doing the favorites, and that's the reason why she ended up filling out the paper, because she was trying to think of the favorites, and it wasn't,
I'm not thinking of favorites right off my head. Like, you ask me a question, I'll
I
say
have
like,
favorites.
yeah.
I have lots of things in that category. I can't pick a favorite.
Well, like, favorite color,
pink.
pink, but yours is what, rainbow?
Aqua.
Rainbow, because I don't know my answer yet.
Aqua?
Blue green.
So like blue
Used to
green.
be
I
green and now it's blue, so it's blue green.
I like
I-
different colors in
I
different
do too.
situations.
Me too.
I don't.
Oh, you got
I
it?
just
Oh, you
want
That's
got
why,
it.
see, that's,
Because
that's why I
red
don't like
is a
favorites.
power color in certain things, and I like the sort of the blue spot color, you know?
No, when someone says what's your favorite color, you just think of a color. Pink. What's
Pink.
Oh, I have a question I was actually gonna ask you, and I was like, this is a boring question, but I'm genuinely curious.
Okay.
What's your favorite flower?
The favorite flower was on that, and it was hard for me to decide, but it used to be.
That's a great example.
It
She's got
used to
so many
be-
favorites.
Used to be sweetheart roses, the little teeny-tiny ones, the little buds.
Used to
And,
be.
but I like the yellow ones with the coral centers too, and I also like the
Coral.
gladiolas.
See, she's just more detailed than me. Because if you had said, "What's your favorite flower?" I'd been like, "Peonies." And she's like, "I like the ones with the coral center."
Yeah, I do.
She's much more
That's
specific
great.
than I am.
You gotta have a favorite flower.
That's why that favorites video didn't
Yeah.
work so good for you. I was
Oh.
springing,
You remember,
Favorites on her
remember
like
the
that.
tray that I gave Margaret
Well,
for
but-
Thanksgiving?
but she, look at the, she answered every single question.
It did. It broke.
She took it outside and put it on the table and it slipped off.
What
and
what hair color she
Yeah.
has.
She was.
What's your favorite flower?
I'll show you what I did instead.
Those
I
in
told
the
her, I said, I'll do it again, and I was not real happy about it anyway.
That's,
So I
sweet.
did it over.
What is it?
Okay. Those, Neil brought home for me.
Oh, yeah.
That's a good answer.
She likes monkeys just like me.
Yeah, she said that's her favorite animal.
That's my favorite too.
Monkey.
Monkey. So like if God would bring you back as an animal, you'd be a monkey.
I'd rather be a bird.
Oh,
I just like
bird.
looking at monkeys.
Okay, you
I
like
think they're
looking at monkeys.
interesting to study.
I'd
That's
rather
a whole
fly than
different
have somebody
Yeah.
have another monkey picking stuff out of me.
Yeah.
It also depends on where you are as a monkey. 'Cause
Mhm.
some of the places let you they don't kill them, they let you roam and eat.
That's why being a bird means you can fly and get away from all that
Just
stuff.
go wherever. Oh, that's a good idea. I'd be a bear because I love salmon so much.
Yeah.
But I have to be a
You
bear.
like raw
that's-
salmon?
I have to find myself a stream where there's salmon.
I know, and you have to go upstream,
Yeah.
backwards, you know.
Yeah. I would love being at a waterfall where they're just jumping in my mouth.
That is the perfect way.
What are we, looking at?
Actually, I called up there. I did because they told me the whole story.
Shut up. I was gonna say, what did they say? Well, after, like the third or fourth time that he yelled at us and dropped like bombs on us, I was kind of done.
Oh, really?
If I could re-say it and it would be appropriate, I'd let you know. But anyway, just imagine,
Was it a Tom Cruise moment?
whatever y'all.
Wasn't wearing a mask?
No, it was just because he had, before this situation, he always kind of had a short attitude, and I was like, whatever, some people do, it's, whatever. And then he was like, whatever y'all, effing love me, whatever, no, check it out, and I was like, excuse me. He like yelled at us and dropped like 6 F-bombs, and that happened like 2 or 3 times, and by the like third time, I was like, so.
Everything else was going pretty good.
It was
for you,
fun,
but-
yeah.
Well, I thought you liked him because he was letting you do a lot of things.
He only did until he lost his,
Halo?
stuff. Until he lost his stuff, he started, cursing at all of us, and I was like, no, you're not the kind of person I want to work for. You're gonna scream at us and curse at us. That's not a good thing.
Not good.
Alright.
Sorry. Well, thank you for staying so long.
Well,
With
we had
us.
fun.
And
It's nice to
I would like,
talk about.
I would too, and I also would love to play games. I love to play games. We can play
we have Clue, don't we, at our house?
Yeah.
We never have enough people to play that. We should play Clue. That's my.
I think we've got it here.
That's my favorite board game. Is Clue.
We've got all kinds of, do you like play games?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's kind of the way I am.
Well, I'm at mom's house all the time, and I have little sisters, and they love games. So I love board games.
I really do.
So I would love to play board games.
Do you remember the reunion game that I played with you guys when I was staying at the house? And you really liked it, because it's not a game. It's not a win or lose, it's talking.
It sounds familiar, but I might have to know more.
On the carpet.
Oh, really?
Some gel tablets and pill.
Oh,
Just look
I
at
wonder
that
what
one.
happened to that. Clear over here, my goodness. It's a vitamin E tablet.
That reminds me, I found a pill on our kitchen floor a couple days ago, and I was like, interesting.
Is it like a?
Bella might eat that. It was a small white circle
I found
tablet.
one on the carpet a couple weeks ago as well.
Oh, that
It was
has a
a
big.
bigger gel tablet.
It looked like one of the iron pills,
No,
perhaps.
it's probably a melatonin.
Yeah.
Because I don't get into the iron, I get into melatonin.
Yeah, Bella.
So,
I was like,
Bella would go to sleep
Bella's
even
gonna
more
eat
than she does
that.
already.
This right here, this is what you can take to avoid the COVID virus. Melatonin is one of them, and
Yeah.
all the good things that it does for you.
Yeah.
So,
Hopefully I'm taking most of those because I have them.
you take the vaccine.
no. No. I
Yeah.
went to hear Dr. Charlotte last week on Thursday, and she gave me a lot of information about vaccines,
Zinc.
and, I'm definitely not taking.
Yeah, most of the stuff I am, so. What do I need that for?
Okay.
To know my name?
I just wanted to be sure that nobody picked it up.
Okay. Alright. Thanks for
Okay.
dinner.
You need some leftovers? We've got lots of
Yeah,
salad.
me too.
You wanna take
Wow.
a little bit, throw in some toppings?
I'll come over in the
We'll be
morning.
eating.
I was gonna say,
Oh, yeah.
if you save it, maybe in the next
I'll eat
couple
some
days,
more
I'll
Hey,
come
fruit
over.
in
Come
the
over in
morning
the
or
morning
something.
and have some salad for breakfast.
Are you doing your?
Yeah, Jesus
Yes,
and
we
Java
are.
or Ocha.
We have a
It's
wonderful.
Christ, it's Christ and coffee.
Yes.
I like Jesus and Java.
I like it too.
Christ and coffee.
You like Christ the coffee? I like it too.
What time is
Both of
that?
them. It's both. 8?
8 to 8:30.
Yeah,
I
8.
mean,
Or no, 8 to 9.
usually,
The service starts at 9.
Well, what time does it? What time do y'all normally
yeah, that's
start?
right.
Because it depends on when
Sunday
it's-
morning,
it's at
it
night.
has to be at 8, because the service is at 9, and then I go to Sunday school at 10:30, 10:15 actually.
If she's not teaching, and then if you're
I
teaching,
taught last week.
if you're teaching,
Are
you leave.
You're
around
not
10.
teaching tomorrow.
So
And I was asked last
Thanks.
week to teach, once a month at the 50/50 class, and I'm going to, the first Sunday. And that's
That's
just all I want, just
Yeah.
once a month.
Yeah.
That's good.
That's good.
One thing that
You can
we've
plan it that way, yeah.
been doing lately is going through this book. It's called Traveling Light. Max Lucado, I'm telling you,
He is
I
so
really appreciate
interesting.
this author because he writes in such a memorable way. He brings these stories and all this, the way he says
Describes
things,
it.
it's funny and it's just memorable. But this book, he's going through the 23rd Psalm, breaking it down like line by line, and it's really fascinating. It made me think. It's made me today was restore your soul, and I never would have thought of it as he took it to this really deep level of hopeless. Like, have you ever feel like you're just hopeless? And he just went through all these different scenarios, all these things that you may have dealt with in your life, and I mean, it was just, I love it.
Yeah.
So, I don't know if we'll do that tomorrow, but you know,
Will we see you again tomorrow? Good.
Tomorrow.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll
you
let
guys
you
are
go.
always invited.
If
I
we're
will
asleep.
set my alarm in an attempt to be here tomorrow.
Right.
Good. Well, I
I've
hope
had
you
a
will.
hard time.
You
Even
too?
though
You
for a
coming?
while I was used to
Oh,
waking up at
well,
6
thanks
a.m.
for
and
asking.
wake up
I-
Where you coming? Come on.
my body size.
I'd be surprised by myself if I can make it. But we'll see.
No, we'd love to have you. It's worth it.
Sure.
If no other reason, to be with Weezy and to listen to her wisdom and her experience.
Real important thing.
Exfoliating.
That's
I
worth it.
bought one of those things where you when you push the button, it goes ring. It's one of those, you know what I mean? So I've been doing that,
That really.
Yeah.
and then I
really
tone
makes
it
Well,
with
do it.
some mist,
Set your
and
alarm
then I do
too.
some eye cream, and then I moisturize. And 3 times a week, I do a face mask.
It's doing it.
You can tell.
I can tell.
Thank you.
I sure can.
Good night.
Good night. Love you. Yeah.
See you in the morning.
I love
See you in the morning.
Good morning.
And I like your haircut.
Thank you. Bye.
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 Oh, yeah, hug.
I'll see you probably in the morning.
Let's do it.
Hopefully I can wake up.
You can.
I'm more of a listener than a speaker.
I like to be a morning person,
Yeah.
but the last month or so, I've been like a 9 o'clock kind of person, but
Yeah.
I'd rather be like a 7 a.m. person.
Well, let's do it. Starting tomorrow.
Starting tomorrow. So let's see what happens.
Let's see what happens.
I'll see you tomorrow.
Let's see you tomorrow.
Come on, babe. Come on. Come on. Come on. Get. Come on, baby. Come on.
Taxi.
Come on in.
Maybe he hasn't been out there long enough
He
yet.
just walked out with them.
Oh, well, that's why.
That's
He
really-
wanted to be outside for a little bit. Just let him hang out there.
All right.
So what'd you think about tonight? Did that go a lot better? Did you
Oh,
enjoy that much
I like
better?
that a lot much. Lot
Yeah,
better.
me too. I thought that was,
Lots better.
that went really well.
Come on. Come on. Yeah.
Yeah.
He must have been out because he's real down. He could have got that down.
He's ready for some food. Okay, that was wonderful.
It was.
Yeah.
I liked that. They even liked it.
They did.
Yeah,
Any-
that was good. And
Any final words?
I thought it would be fun to play games next
Yes,
time.
we should do games next
I
time.
love that.
Great idea.
Yeah.
So what are we gonna play? Reunion?
Whatever. I don't care as long as we play.
I know reunion is one of your
Yeah.
favorites, but
Yes.
whatever.
But that's not a win-lose.
No, but it is a great discussion.
It
or,
is. It is.
Yeah.
That's the reason why I like it. But we did that this time, so we could maybe do a win-lose next time.
Okay. Well,
Okay.
till next time.
Bye.